Okay, so this is what's called the XR UK Communications Hub. So this is like what I'll be inviting, me and Tristan are going to be inviting everyone to later, which is like our central base for of our communication platforms and our tech stuff that we'll be using. And so you'll get an invitation, an email, probably later today to kind of invite you onto these platforms. But I thought before we sent that out, it'd be good just to talk them through a little bit so we know how to use them and what they're for. Okay, so there are three main platforms we're going to be using as part of this team and generally throughout XR UK. We're actually kind of like, in a kind of exciting way, spearheading some of these new platforms. Some of you might be familiar with some of the old platforms we were using, like Basecamp and WhatsApp groups and that kind of thing. This is going to really help pave the way for a bit of a new era in that stuff. And so why are we moving on to these things? Well, for one instance, all of the new platforms are all on secure Swiss servers. So Basecamp, for example, is owned by an American company that doesn't really want us to be on there. It's part of its rules and regulations is, no illegal activity to happen on here or planning of illegal activity. And also, sorry. We're actually their biggest organization on there by over double. I think the biggest they've got on there at the moment was 6,000, and now we've got like 18,000 people on Basecamp. It's kind of like blowing their minds a bit. So anyway, the chances are that they can move us off. So instead, we've got these new platforms that are all on secure Swiss servers, which have the best data protection laws in the world around that. So we're moving on to these. Exciting. So the first one I'm going to talk about is called Mattermost Chat. So this is basically a chatting platform, probably similar to Slack, if people already use that as part of work or whatever. And it's basically looks like this. It's got a series of channels that you can be part of or groups, some of which are public channels. So you could just, look and find ones that you want to be, oh, sorry, that's not the right one. You can look and find ones that you want to be a part of, and you can just join into them in some way. And these chat channels basically act in the same way as, let's say, a WhatsApp group or a Signal group would. You can dive into them and have conversations with people as a group, or you can also use, in the same way you would use WhatsApp or whatever, you can directly message someone. So you can, find someone's tag and just message them directly like someone has done here. Yeah, and so within that you have these sort of public channels which are, helping us to chat with other people within the community. So this is the communities team overall Mattermost group. So you've got all the different teams within the communities group that you could just hop into. Say you've got a question about Rebel Academy and how, that might help with some of the onboarding of people in XR Slough, for example. You could just hop in there and ask them a question about how that works. And one of the ideas is that we're trying to make this quite a close-knit team of people throughout the communities, so you can just easily interact and chat with them if you need to. But we've also got these private channels, which are more like closed groups. So like we'll have one for this team, for example, where we can just talk about what it is we need to talk about as part of the team to help move forward. And what's useful about these as well is obviously you can make more of them if you need to. So once you've been invited, it's a good idea for the internal coordinator, ideally, if you need someone, or anyone really, but the internal coordinator is probably the best person to do it, is to create a private channel for your group, basically. So, and by group, I mean your region. So we'll want to be creating one for the north, one for the southeast and London, and one for the southwest and Wales and West Midlands. So we can create those private channels on here. Once you get in, you just have to click this plus button and give it a name, give it a purpose, and anything else you'd like to do. Just, yeah, to start off with, just playing around with it and having a chance to chat to people is great. So this is one of the teams you'll be added into, is the XR UK Communities team, which is like our kind of, as I said, closer knit team of people you can chat to. The other team you'll be added into is the XR UK team, which is like the broader system team. Okay, so within that, they have, again, all these public channels, which are not just around communities, they're around everything basically within XR. So, you know, there's the Anchor Circle, for example, there, the migration team, self-organizing system team. This might be for just general questions you have about XR. You can hop into different public channels and chat to people about them. And in the same way, there might be other people that want to know more about mass mobilization and want to chat about it and like, oh, I'm kind of interested in this. I'm from the political group or whatever. And so we have our own reception channel where people can also chat about that too and find out what's going on. Okay, so yeah, so that's basically Mattermost. It's a kind of chat channel, chance to easily send kind of quick messages and find out what's going on. It's the kind of thing we'll use for that kind of quick interaction, you know, like, oh, when's the meeting? Or yeah, has anyone sorted this bit right now? That kind of thing. But in terms of kind of longer discussions or forums basically about key ideas or principles, we've got another channel, which I'll go on to next. So I'll go on to that now. And I think what the best way of doing it might be, because we've got quite a few of us that will save questions and that kind of thing, because we're going to send out some documentation and stuff about how to use all these things anyway. And if you're still struggling or got questions, then me and Tristan are around to chat about it. Tristan's your sort of go-to person on these things in the meantime. So that was Mattermost, which is one of the 3 channels. And then I'll try and get back to the hub to find on to the next one. So yeah, so Mattermost is all about sort of, yeah, quickly communicating with each other. And then once it loads up, I'll go on to the UK forums. Okay, so this is another platform which is for longer discussions, basically. So you might have, so I just move my screen over a little bit. So as part of mass mobilization, we'll have our own sort of forum channel where we can create topics to talk about in our teams, such as, discussing regional boundaries, or, what are the different techniques we want to use for organizing meetings, or things that need a kind of a longer conversation, and where the messages for it aren't just going to disappear after a couple of days because everyone's sending so many messages about other things as well. It like keeps these conversations and forums saved, basically, so we can then dive into them later. And what's really useful about that as well is, like, as new people will be joining these teams and getting involved, they can then also see what the previous conversations were and kind of get up to speed a little bit about, okay, so that's why the North decided to focus mainly on the Northeast for now rather than the Northwest, or whatever the decisions that were made previously can help to do that. So you can just hop into we'll have like this channel here for mass mobilization. And if you've got, things we want to talk about or a longer conversation to have with people, you can just create a new topic here, just, whatever it might be. And then, the thoughts on it. And, maybe it's a proposal that you're asking for feedback on, or ideas in that direction. Okay. So the same goes for, like with Mattermost, one of the ideas around this is we're trying to be able to interact with lots of other teams as well. So other teams like arts and media messaging, which have all got these kind of funky designs, which I quite like, will all have their own kind of reception areas as well, which haven't been set up yet, but we'll be able to dive into and kind of create conversations there if you want to. But the main thing to go on to first is just this getting started area, which will talk you through all the basics about using these forums and how to get involved much better than I can. But it's just nice to be able to sort of talk it through a little bit. Okay, so that's the second one. So we've got chat channels, we've got a forum for kind of longer conversations and keeping things together. And then finally, we've got a cloud storage device. So we can use this basically to store all the files for our teams. So if you want a kind of shared collaborative space where you can work on documents and things together, you can go into the mass mobilization group and create a new document or a spreadsheet or a presentation or even a mind map file, apparently, which you can then use, and then everyone in the team will have access to it, so you can edit it live as you do with Google Docs, basically. So I would say at this stage, if it's like, whoa, that's like loads of new things all at once, to stick to the kind of Mattermost and forum channels, and like, you know, wean your way onto these new document and file servers if you're really used to using Google Docs and you're more familiar with that for now. But it's something we're going to be trying to move on to as a team, because again, it's they're much more secure basically to have all your files on here, and we should try and be using them as a team, like as much as possible, really. And we'll have them all in the same place for everyone as well, rather than Google Docs, which are kind of all over the place, right? Which will be super helpful. Cool. Okay, so I think that's everything. Yes, we have our own folder, and you can make documents in there and just edit it as you need to with each person from the team. So I think that's everything I wanted to say about our platforms. You don't have to worry about these other bits. For internal coordinators, you'll be able to invite people to your team as well. So that's to invite them basically onto this hub as well. If there's anything you want to transfer from Basecamp, you can also do that. And you can also create, if you're an admin, you can create new organizations, but I wouldn't worry about that too much for now. Just these are the main 3 platforms.